This video is only part of an unpaid, unbiased, in-depth review from an average rider's perspective, so check out the rest in the link below at thegoodride.com. If you want real advice, fill out the Me Harmony profile in the link below so I can help you properly. And if this video helps, please consider donating or buying through our links. Thanks for watching. Welcome to The Good Ride. I'm James Beastie, and I'm just being me in a world that isn't. And today I'm being me next to the Union Atlas. And next to the Union Atlas is the Union Atlas Pro and the Union Atlas FC. They have a triple Atlas offer for 2023, and I'm gonna talk to you primarily about the Atlas, but reference the Atlas Pro and the Atlas FC and the 22 Atlas. I rode these 2023 Atlas with a wide variety of boards. I kept these half of the season, thank you Union, and I put these on more boards than I can mention and used these with a lot of different boots, but primarily with my Burton Kendos. But I also spent a decent amount of time with the Ride Triad on them, the Nidecker Rift APX, and a few others. And when I tested these, not only did I put these in a sampler, but I also put the old Atlas on one foot, the new Atlas on another, and then switched. So I got a really good idea of how the new Atlas performs against the old Atlas. I also did the same with the Atlas Pro. I didn't do that with the Atlas FC because it's just in another world. It really steps up huge from the Pro. To give you a short summary, for 2023, the Atlas has a slightly different shaped high back. It's a little bit more in line with the Strata, but it's also a little stiffer than the older high back. And the ride isn't that noticeably different because that's really the only major change. And when I rode these on the same board with the 2022 on one foot and the 2023 on the other, there was only a slightly noticeable difference on the heel side turn. So if you have the old Atlas from 2021 or 2022, you probably don't need the 2023. It's still this great, exceptionally damp, pretty good with shock absorption, but not excellent, very adjustable, very responsive binding that works with a massive amount of boards and boots. It's the binding I choose to use when testing boards and boots, and I own 6 pair of them so I can test 6 boards at a time in a sampler and make it happen. And that's how much I like the Atlas. Now, with the weight, these are still 2.2 pounds. What's interesting is the Atlas Pro is 2.2 pounds too. They have pretty much the same feel. The Atlas FC is 2.0 pounds. So they're not ultra light like the Ultra at 1.8 pounds or the Falcor at 1.8 pounds. So when it comes to the Highback Flex, this is the major change in the binding this year for the Atlas. The Highback Flex is pretty stiff. It's got very little give and a lot less twist. Now, if you compare that to the old Atlas, it has a lot more twist and a lot more give. So unfortunately, the mullet style setup, all business down at the base and all loose and party up in the high back, is gone. I like the smooth, more symmetrical turning experience of the softer high back because that base plate is so responsive. It matches the toe side a little bit more, but I think most riders kind of gravitate towards a stiffer high back, and that's why they've moved towards this. So I'll pick up the shattered pieces of my life and keep riding. In comparison to the Atlas Pro, it seems to be about the same high back, but if you compare it to the Atlas FC, this thing just, like I tried to twist, it just didn't even twist or give. It kind of hurts my wrist and palm to try to do so. This thing is ultra stiff and you feel it against your boot way more than you do these, and especially more so than you do the old Atlas Highback. Now, when it comes to flex underfoot and buttering, you've got a big old full-size disc here, but the rest of the base plate is this dense rubber, and I love it. Not only does it dampen up the ride, but it helps the board not feel dead underfoot. It feels stiffer, it feels damper, but it doesn't feel dead. And if you want to butter with it, it's decent. If you're really into buttering and you really want a good flex underfoot, then you need to look at the Falcor or the Ultra. Those will butter better, but for an all mountain binding that matches up with a wide variety of directional boards, this does pretty well when you throw it on a twin, and it flexes underfoot well enough for me. So when it comes to response, you still have that same great Atlas response. Now, if you compare it to the Force has softer materials on the bottom. It's more EVA foam than this hard rubber. And what I found on same-day tests with the old Atlas on one foot and the Force on another is the Force does initiate a turn a little bit quicker, and it's more responsive in that aspect, but the Atlas has more rubber where the Force has EVA foam. So the Force has more shock absorption, but the Atlas is more damp. So the higher speed you go, the more uneven the terrain is, the better the Atlas responds. So I would say most of the time the Atlas is more responsive, but in some situations the Force can be the same or slightly better. But then you go to the Atlas Pro. The Atlas Pro is definitely more responsive. Same kind of test. Atlas on one foot, Atlas Pro on the other, and you could definitely feel a difference in response, and it feels a little stiffer underfoot, a little less damp, a little less shock absorbent, but still pretty close. Then you go to the FC and it feels a lot less damp, a lot less shock absorbent. It's just a one mean, stiff response machine, and it's just not for me. So when it comes to the shock absorption and dampness, the Atlas isn't that amazing for shock absorption, but it is for dampness. I would say in comparison to, let's say, the pinnacle of shock absorption and dampness, the Jones and Now bindings. They have rubber stoppers similar to this rubber bottom throughout the Atlas Pro and the Atlas FC. But then they also have a soft EVA foam top to kind of complement that, so you have both shock absorption and dampness. This is more rubber throughout, and you really notice it when you get on the Force, which is EVA foam on the top and the bottom, how much more shock absorbent that is. But this still has good shock absorption, good enough, and it's damp enough. I'd like to see a little more shock absorption in this, especially the regular Atlas, now that you have the Atlas Pro and the Atlas FC. But overall, it's a great all-day ride, and it really keeps your edge quiet in uneven snow, so you can continue a turn and not get bucked out of the line that you started. Now, when it comes to support, I love these ankle straps. They're soft, but they've got a nice bit of surface area, so they support you without locking you in so you can't butter. So it's just a really good 1-2 combo of having comfort and no pressure points, but still having a good amount of support in uneven snow. And all these ankle straps do about the same thing. It's just a little different design-wise with the Atlas Pro and the Atlas FC, but I barely noticed a difference. I will say though, they look super cool. And with the toe straps, it's the same thing. You get I think a nicer toe strap with the Atlas Pro and Atlas FC. You can see it's just a pop out where this is screw and this is screw. And this is the older school toe strap, just like the old Atlas. But I love this toe strap. I think it's one of the best in the industry. Maybe the only better toe strap I've seen is on Flux, but this is so close it doesn't matter. The ratchets are great. You can see these have been used all season on a wide variety of boards, and they're just working fine. And they are smooth, reliable, and just, for me, seem to work forever. I rarely, if ever, have to change them. It's usually when I do something stupid like break it through my own negligence, It never breaks through wear and tear. Now, when it comes to adjustability, there are many great bindings out there that can match the Atlas in terms of response, in terms of feel underfoot, in terms of overall ride. But there are very few that can match the Atlas in terms of adjustability. You have an adjustable heel loop. You have an adjustable toe ramp / gas pedal that you can slide in and out. So with just about any size boot in the recommended sizing, you can get it dialed out to be centered in this binding and therefore centered on board. So then you can turn these discs sideways and slide them tip to tail to get your perfect stance width. Of course, they're Burton channel compatible. They only have one hole though, but that's okay because you can adjust the toe and the heel. So just center it up on board and you'll get your boot where you want it in the binding. But they also have, for regular disc bindings, a long slide either way, and they're very adjustable. And this adjustability is ubiquitous throughout the entire Atlas line, except for one thing with the Atlas Pro. You cannot rotate the high backs like you can with the Atlas. There is a new forward lean adjuster, and that's with the Atlas and the Atlas Pro. The Atlas FC has an old school forward lean adjuster, just like the old Atlas. Toolless adjustability throughout. The one thing I don't like is this screw. They've got to figure out a way to just keep that screw in so when you take this off, that screw doesn't pop off and go shooting somewhere. And you have this camber disc, which is 4 screws connected by 2 washers. First, I wasn't so sure about this, but I love it. Now, in comparison to the older disc, the only time I feel like I have more adjustability with the older disc is if I take out the camber disc washers and put in the old school regular union washers and set it up mini disc, and then I can get just a touch more adjustability in some ways. But if you compare these two, you can see there is a lot of adjustability with both, and I don't really feel like I'm lacking much with this versus this guy, except for those rare times, like for example, when I have setback inserts and it doesn't work with my stance width. So sometimes I like putting these in and setting it up mini disc near the one setback insert that doesn't work that well and getting that perfect adjustability there. But 9.5 times out of 10, 9.8 times out of 10, I'm using this disc and I don't even think about this disc. So overall, the Atlas is just still an amazing binding. And out of all 3 of these, I would choose the Atlas over the Atlas Pro and Atlas FC. Actually, if I could, I'd choose the old Atlas, but I feel this is only just a touch better than the regular new Atlas with the stiffer high back. But I think most of you will probably prefer the stiffer high back over the softer. So I might be a minority there.